Welcome to the Pro Design Builder podcast, a show where professionals and entrepreneurs share their stories, strategies, and secrets to building a thriving business and a successful life. I'm Sam, your host, as we dive deep into the world of life experiences and entrepreneurship. So, before we get started, just wanted to thank our sponsors. The Pro Design Builder is a coaching and consulting firm for real estate investors who want to build spec homes and and multifamily projects. The Pro Design Builder is not just about building a business; it's about building a vision and a life by design. Also, we have House Flipping 101 Boot Camp. We have several dates: March 26th and 27th in Tampa, and then April 16th and 17th in Fort Lauderdale. So, if you're a real estate investor, you want to dive into real estate investing, or you want to sharpen your sword in real estate investing, those are the two dates we're going to be hosting a boot camp. It's going to be 2 days of packed with high level information. So if you want to sharpen your sword, that's where you would do it. There'll be a link in the description for that. Also wanted to thank the Nest Collab, which is a incubator for real estate investors. So if you're a real estate investor and you want to learn and grow, whether it's flipping, new development, creative finance, or short sale, we have an expert that mans that particular area, and you could grow from that experience at the Nest Collab. Also, as you know, foster care is a mission that's near and dear to my heart. I've fostered a number of kids. I've adopted 2 kids. I'm currently fostering now. If you ever feel led to give to our foster care initiative, there'll be a link in the description. We support things like purchasing beds for adoptive and foster parents. Oftentimes, this transition happens quickly, and sometimes we need to provide cribs and stuff like that. So it supports that. As a primary cook in the house, I understand how important it is when someone brings an additional meal. It's one less thing off my plate, and we provide additional meals for foster parents. And lastly, we are pro strong family. So if a family could get an additional date night so the family unit is strong, we wanted to support that. So if we could get them additional date night, those are the types of things that we want to support. So there'll be a link in the description there. So without further ado, I just want to introduce my guest, Michael Bluem, with, which is a partner in Title Now. He's also a real estate investor, wholesaler, and now developer. So just want to say thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you having me, Sam. It's been a while. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no problem, man. If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate my entire life. I didn't finish college. I started off as a mortgage broker when I was still in high school. My mother, she was a realtor, and her way of kind of giving me cash was sending me clients here and there. And that just rolled into when financing dried up, I became a partner at another title company and have been in title ever since. So 39 years old, that's probably 16 years in title. So a pretty good chunk of my life there.
No, for sure. So I'll tell you a funny story, but you don't know all the details to this, but you were a pivotal part of me doing my first deal. And I'll tell you all of the details because this is gonna show you how green I was. All right. So I went to this Fortune Builders event, and after that, I was determined to do my first deal. Right. So I had connected with you somehow, and I knew you worked for the title company, and I knew that I could call you and you would help guide me on where to do what. Like, so I was so green as a real estate investor. I didn't know what an escrow was. I didn't know where to put the deposit. I didn't know how to fill out um the contract, none of that. So, but I knew I had you and I could call you and you'll tell me exactly what I needed to do. So, on my first deal, I get this deal under contract, and this house was still to this day, it's the worst house I've ever seen, right? Because the owner said, "Hey, listen, the city's gonna make you knock this house down, right?" And at the time, I looked at the house, and I'll tell you what, I walked in the house, and the foundation of the house was like cratered in. The whole thing is cratered in, right? And then I said to him, I was like, "Oh, we could probably fix it. We could probably do something with it now that I know
5 grand,
structural." He
5 grand.
said, at that time, who knows? Who knows what I was saying? I was like, we could probably fix it. I think the city won't make us knock it down. It'll be fine, right? So I get this deal under contract. I call you. You tell me exactly what to do, right? So I get it signed. I think I get it over to you, but it's in this this period where I don't even know if I put a deposit down. I might have put zero down. And then right after that, you told me, "Hey, listen, Sam, don't put zero on this thing. Put like $100 or $500. Put something down on there. Do not put zero." Right. But that at the Fortune Builders type stuff, you said you could put zero down. Right. So you tell me, "Hey, listen, correct this. Don't put zero, put something." Right. So it's towards my period where the money's gonna go hard, or something like that. And I panicked, right? And I've never told anybody this story. I panicked, and my wife had just became a realtor, right? Because that was the deal. I was becoming an investor. She would become a realtor. I had her log in because I would just like search the MLS, and I had pictures. So then I just posted it on her MLS, right? Which I didn't know you couldn't do. But she said she was in a meeting, and then next thing you know, her phone starts to break, like it's cracking. People are calling. People want to put offers on this house. She doesn't know what's going on. She's like, the phone's ringing. You could get in trouble for that. This is my license, and this and that. Da 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 da. And then what ended up happening is people just started going to the house, and then 3 to 5 days, this house got run down so fast. It was already bad condition, right? It got to the point where someone circumvented me, went directly to the owner, because
Well,
that's what they
South
do. This is
Florida,
this is
yeah.
this is real estate. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I heard it's on the MLS, and they said I could get more for it. And you put it on the MLS without my permission, so this gives me right to get out of the deal." And I ended up having to let this particular deal go. He did sell it for more, and then they did make him knock it down. Yeah, so whoever bought it, then they resold again. They made them knock it down. So I don't think they made any money, but that just kind of tells you a little bit about our connection and where real estate started.
So I don't remember that one in particular, but I remember when I was over at the old title company and the
Uh-huh.
first deals that you had coming over, wholesaling them to hedge funds. And
Yes.
I told you kind of the pitfalls that were coming up and everything like that. I remember we ended up getting a few of them through. I remember it was
Correct.
a few good ones, but
Hmm.
I mean, it was always interesting.
No, for sure, for sure, for sure. You definitely taught me a lot. You definitely kept me out of trouble. And I thought it was perfect to have you on and speaking from multiple sides, right? As the real estate investor, as the title company, because you've seen a lot of different things in real estate because you handle title, right?
Yeah.
So just wanted to kind of just pick your brain and kind of get some of your stories on what you've seen in this title field.
Yeah, 100%. So I honestly, I don't wholesale anymore. It's been a little while since I've done that. It was very kind of juggling from one deal to the next, and a little chaotic to be running multiple businesses alongside of that. So I don't wholesale anymore, but I really think it's brought me the best experience to be a title agent, to
Sure.
make deals happen for wholesalers. I understand, like you were just going over, where the pitfalls are, the issues that you're going to experience before you experience them. Being a wholesaler, I also know kind of how what you're trying to make accomplished as part of the title company. I know how to talk with the sellers. I understand, the back ends of the contract, what happens when there's disputes, and so on. So I think it brings a lot of knowledge from the wholesaling. genre that I used to do. I'm
Correct.
still I'm still an investor, but just bringing that wholesale knowledge over to the title side, I think it makes me a real asset for any wholesalers out there.
No, for sure. Definitely an asset for any real estate investor. So I wanted to ask you, can you explain what a title company does and why it's essential in real estate transactions?
Yeah, so basically, short and sweet, what we do is we provide the research of the property. That's the main job of the title company. We do all the research for liens, judgments, violations, utility bills, all sorts of things like that. Anything that would be recorded against your property, either with the city or in the public records, we do the research for that. We present it to the buyer to make sure it was the exact same thing that they were promised under the contract, and then we charge a one-time fee to basically guarantee that for the entire time that they've owned the property. So that last piece is the title insurance. Like I said, one-time fee, whatever we find in our research, that's what we guarantee your property comes with. So, if it's not supposed to have the mortgage, we get the payoff, we pay utility bills, everything like that. So if you're supposed to have a free and clear property and our research says it's free and clear, the insurance policy guarantees that as long as you own the home.
Okay, no, that's that's amazing. I remember as a green investor, I would hear title insurance. I'm like, what is this even about? Why do I need this again? And I didn't really even fully make sense to me. So, what would you say is the biggest misconceptions when it comes to title?
Hey, really? Come on,
Yeah,
go. I'm sorry.
what? It's all good. It's all good. Imperfections, okay. What's the biggest misconception when it comes to title insurance?
I think the biggest misconception is, a lot of people think that it's never used, and people, everyone pays all this money and nobody gets any use out of it, and that's just not the case. There's so many real estate transactions that are happening out there that title insurance actually does come into effect on a lot of different transactions. So I think the biggest misconception is that it's just a fee that you're never going to get anything back for.
Okay, so just kind of walk me through because I haven't had to use this, thank God, right?
Mhm.
Because you guys are consistent in what you guys do, and I haven't had any issues. So, what happens in a situation where title policy is triggered?
So basically, what happens is it becomes a situation from the underwriter and the insured of the title policy. They simply send an email to the underwriter. They're making a claim, kind of explaining what the issue is. Obviously, the underwriter reaches out to us and gets a copy of our file and any emails and just a general understanding of what happened. Most of the time, it's something that either wasn't done correctly in the recording office or something like that, but there's plenty of reasons for a title policy to be triggered. But that's basically the process of what happens is the insured they'll reach out to us. We provide them the contact information of the kind of overarching title underwriter, and then they communicate with them directly from there on out to make sure that the claim is processed properly.
Okay, and then they typically just obviously they do the research to figure out where the gap was
Yeah,
and the issue. And then, go ahead.
so it's not even necessarily a gap in title or something was done incorrectly. There's human errors as far as the examination side. There's city stuff that sometimes they didn't record the lien correctly, and then they want to re-record it and come after the person and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of different, reasons that a title policy could be triggered. But it's a very kind of basic process to touch base with the title company and kind of explain what your issue is, and they give you a very fast turnaround time as far as an answer and moving forward to correct the issue. And that correction could be as small as $200, $500. In my position, we would end up normally just paying that out of pocket rather than triggering any
Didn't
sort of
trigger it or anything. Yeah.
than triggering a claim. But
Mhm.
it goes up to they obviously need to take the property back or provide somebody money for a whole property. Obviously, title insurance in Florida, there's lots of fraud in Florida, deed fraud and stuff like that. So those are normally the most serious issues because that's a significant amount of money that changes hands that is covered by the title policy.
So, since you see all of these transactions quite often, what are some common issues you see in title transactions?
I mean, there's a ton of issues out there. I think the majority, there's code liens, building violations, code violations on all sorts of property. I think South Florida is the hotbed for real estate investors. There's a ton of people doing unpermitted work on their properties and stuff like that. So I think that's the most common issues that I see in at the title company is just title comes back. Either people knew or didn't know they got flagged for something. Is the title company going to find it? A lot of times, unfortunately, people keep their mouth shut to buyers about these things. So it's really on us to kind of unearth everything in the research that we provide to the buyers.
Okay. So you mentioned Florida and title fraud. Can you give us any, real world experience that you've come across or story where you've seen this title fraud come across, and then how did you guys deal with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, title fraud happens obviously every day here in South Florida. You really need to be aware and have a lot of systems in place to go ahead and catch that sort of stuff. But I mean, I've seen everything from, sellers trying to sell other people's properties. When I was back at my old title company and we ran a sting, it was the buyer's attorney was one of the ones that caught it. And he set up a whole sting with local law enforcement.
Oh
So
wow.
so the gentleman actually came to signing and was arrested. So that was nice to see kind of unfold. The bad guy got what was coming to him. But it runs the full spectrum. The phishing attacks now I think are very prevalent, and title companies are a real target for that, being the kind of manager of the funds. So I mean that's increased exponentially. So I mean fraud is really all over the place, and you just need to put the proper systems and policies in place to make sure that you're catching it along the way.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And now that I'm going, I realize I didn't go back and ask you about your childhood. So we'll take a couple steps back. We'll get back to the title, and we'll invest more.
I don't even need to tell them about the good old days, man. What we on the straight and narrow now. We're just making it happen.
That's good. No, but the backstory is always good in kind of understanding what growth looks like. So that's kind of like why I like to go back there. But this is probably parts of the story that I don't know. Like, obviously, we went to school together for a little bit. I don't know. Were you born in Florida? Where did you grow up? What was that situation like for you?
Yeah, I was born in Miami. I've lived in Fort Lauderdale most of my life. My mom was an immigrant from Venezuela, so she came over here when she was 19. And, I was lucky enough to be born here and, just started building right away. Like I said, college wasn't really my thing. So I became an entrepreneur very quickly. And I just kind of thrived at that. And, now it's having multiple businesses in the real estate kind of sector to try to make it as vertical as possible where I'm sending stuff to other companies that I own, and you're your own referral source and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's just hard work and pushing to get to that point.
Who would you say was your biggest influence growing up?
I would think my grandfather. My grandfather really had a work ethic that was very admirable. He was in the Merchant Marines, and he was strict and very on the straight and narrow as far as what had to be done. So we definitely had our clashes, but I think as far as leaving a mark on me, I think it was definitely my grandfather with just the work ethic that he put in. I mean, he spoke like 6 languages. He was just a very kind of lunch pail type of guy.
Was anybody else in your family that had this kind of entrepreneur spirit, or where would you say you got that from?
No, it's funny. I don't have too many entrepreneurs in the family, and I never enjoyed being on somebody else's schedule. I always enjoyed the freedom that entrepreneurship provides. So that's always kind of been my goal. Is me, I've never been kind of a suit and tie person, and
Yeah.
in real estate, that's kind of the norm to own a title company. So, I really just like blazing my own path and being able to, work with who I relate with and who likes working with me, and just have the freedom to kind of handle my business the way that I see fit.
No, it makes perfect sense, and I fall into that similar boat where I don't want anybody to be able to kind of control my time, control, my pace, or control, control my life, and it happens. It happens to a lot of people. And the last that last interview I just did right before we got on here,
Mm.
she was telling the story, and she's a realtor, and she's very dominant. She's very good at it now, but she was telling the story that she had quit, and it was kind of on a whim. And then the person that was over her was telling her, "Hey, you need this check, all right?" And she's like, "Sam," she said it to me 3 times, and then she was like, I'm getting out of here,
Yeah.
but just that
Need to
was
check
just
that
kind of he said, "What now?"
I don't need to check that
No,
bad.
he's like, "No." She's like, I do not need that check
Mhm.
based on how it's coming out, right? So
Yeah.
that's that same thing that we are kind of discussing, not wanting that person to kind of have that thumb over you. Um so how do you handle issues like liens, unpaid taxes, or owner disputes when it comes to title?
So I mean, I think those are two separate boxes. So like liens and taxes and everything. I mean, that's just a standard payoff. So whatever would pop up on the title commitment, we would go ahead and request a payoff from whoever holds that lien or from the county for the taxes payoff. So that's in one box. The other box is the owner disputes. So what I take pride on is I have a way of kind of explaining the situation to people in layman's terms, to kind of help them understand where they are in the transaction. And I think that's something a lot of people in title, especially on these investor files, when you deal with people that are not necessarily, super high end or, have a lot of money. These are people, right now waiting on this check to sell this house. Uh,
Hmm.
I have a way of explaining the situation of, this person is going to end up tying up your property if you think, you're going to go off and sell this property for a couple $1,000s more, because you got this random call for out of the blue or something like that. So, the owner disputes, I feel like I can a lot of times insert myself, find out the issues that each party is having, and then try to negotiate some sort of bridge. And, that bridge doesn't even necessarily need to be additional money. It can be an additional deposit. It can be a faster close, so
Yep.
everything's on the table. But I really do think that's where where my power lies, where I am as an asset, as far as bringing that wholesale mentality is what do we need to make this happen, to the transaction.
So I remember I had this one transaction under contract, and the person that was selling it had purchased it at a tax deed sale, and that was my first time even dealing with a tax deed type purchase. And I remember you saying to me, hey Sam, there's going to be a cloud on title. We need to quiet the title for a year, and then this thing would happen, right? So I want you to kind of provide some clarity on what is a cloud on title, and then what is a quiet title. If you could kind of
Yeah.
break
So
those two.
it's pretty simple. There's plenty of clouds. Anything on title is actually a cloud or an encumbrance. It's
Mhm.
basically, a mortgage, a lien, a judgment. So it's anything that sits on title. And, it's not necessarily a bad thing because, 99% of them you get the payoff for. And
Right.
it's just a process of doing business. Now, as far as, um, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. As far the
it,
cloud.
it Cloud on title and then quiet title.
Quiet title, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The quiet title. So, this conversation happened many, many years ago. So the process has actually changed a little bit. You don't
Okay, so
you
tell me.
don't you don't necessarily need a quiet title action anymore, which is a lawsuit to basically silence anybody else that's making a claim to a property. Now they have non-judicial quiet titles, or it's basically research that they do on the title, and then they will still issue you a clear title to be able to resell it. But that's probably came about over the last 5, 6 years or so. So I know this conversation predates it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a long time ago, and I didn't know that, so it was a good thing that I asked that question.
Yeah, 100%. There's a ton of investors doing them now because the process can be as little as a month to 2 months to go ahead and clear that, that quiet title cloud.
Hmm. So I got a question. What is the worst case scenario if someone buys a property without title insurance?
I mean, worst case scenario, you could lose the property. If you think you're getting a steal of a deal and everything like that, and you need to run and wire this guy money, and he only says that he would do a quick claim deed, and you take the quick claim deed, and that guy's not the owner of the property, you're losing that property, and whatever money that guy gets away with, you're losing that also. So that's probably number one. Your property has no research to who is the real owner. Is there any money owed on the property? You could be buying that $1 million property and that guy have a $1.2 million loan on it. That property could be in foreclosure. You could end up being mentioned on a lawsuit for a foreclosure. I mean, I've seen people that have purchased properties kind of subject to have been mentioned on lawsuits. So you run the gambit with buying a property with no research.
Hmm. Yeah, and then so it sounds like a completely bad idea to ever even. Have you seen that? Like, what have you seen? You've seen people do that, or obviously with quick claim deeds and stuff like that. Yeah, you assume the transaction is moving very quickly, but have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, during the short sale heyday, everyone was quick claiming properties. People were getting properties quick claimed to them. They didn't realize had second mortgages, stuff like that on there. Just because the lenders were not requesting payment at the time, it was kind of like a zombie mortgage out there. Uh,
Hmm.
but I mean, that mortgage is still attached to your property. Those people can wake up at any moment and say, give us our money, and if you don't, your property is
You
getting
foreclose?
foreclosed by them. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Hmm. So, um, so there's this big push now with creative finance and Pace Morby and stuff like that. So I assume that you're probably seeing a lot of creative type deals. How does title insurance work on a creative finance type of transaction?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is obviously the hot button topic and kind of the whole
Correct.
solar world out there. I mean,
Hmm.
the spread on interest rates from what they were going for to what they're going for now, I mean, it only makes sense. Also, I'm looking to buy them also. So,
No,
reach out out
I'm
there.
looking too. Yeah.
Reach out if you got any good ones.
No, for
Uh,
sure, for sure. Yeah.
but yeah, we're absolutely we're handling them every day. They're relatively simple. The people just need to be made aware of the downside of what could happen, which is obviously you have a mortgage still on your property that's in somebody else's name. There is a due on sale clause, so there's strategies to kind of I guess move around that a little bit.
Correct.
But as far as seller financing, creative financing, I mean, those deals are huge right now, so we're doing them every day for people.
Okay, sounds good. Is there some hiccups that you're seeing consistently from people, or you're just able to kind of guide them through? Because obviously it's a win for you if they're successful. But there's also I know a lot of people are jacking those type of deals up in the contract language.
Yeah, I mean, as far as things to look out for, I mean, that's basically, the extent. I mean, I direct people to kind of a little website link that has kind of pitfalls of this, what could happen if you buy one, because you want to make sure people are aware. A lot of these people are dumping, a significant amount of their as a percentage their resources into buying this. Some people are buying these as a family home and stuff like that. So I never like to see people kind of, just the truths get kind of brushed under the carpet, or so to speak. But as long as you're upfront, I mean, there's great deals out there to be had, and some people need to get out and can't get out, and some people need to get in and can't get in without it. So I think it works. I mean, there's definitely a reason for them out there.
Yeah. So I remember early on, depending on the title company, and also depends on the state. Some title companies say that you can do a double close. Some title companies say that they won't do a double close. Like, what is your stance on that? And what is Florida? I don't know what governs your thing. What is their stance on double closing?
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as the double closing is done properly with both deeds being recorded, transfer taxes being paid on both of them, they go in the correct order, it is perfectly fine to do a double closing here in Florida. There are states that don't allow double closings. I'm not familiar with each of them because as of right now, I only close deals in Florida. But it's pretty standard. You shouldn't be using the back end money for the front side deal without it being written into the contract to allow it to do so. And you need to be paying the doc stamps for each transaction. So I've heard of people out there that try to bridge that gap and save a few $1,000s on the doc stamps, but that's not for me. It's easy enough to do them right. People are out there making enough money, so there's no reason to kind of short it like that.
No, for sure. So how should, as me as a real estate investor, also coaching real estate investors, so how should we structure our contracts in a double close situation?
Yeah, so in a double close situation, I mean, it's basic. I tell people to use the FAR bar. I think the FAR bar lends you a level of credibility with sellers to know that you're using the realtor backed or the attorney backed contract. But the FAR bar has a calling for deed in the contract itself. So you're basically just using two contracts that specifically call for deeds for transfer taxes to be paid. So they basically stand on their own. And all you're doing as a title company with the double closing is just processing them individually. And, that's basically the extent of it. A lot of people make it more difficult, but it's basically just two real estate transactions that are happening side by side.
Yeah. What would you say is what was as obviously, you were wholesaling at one point and you are still an active real estate investors. What would you say is your best words of advice to real estate investors when it comes to moving properties to title or escrow?
Yeah, so I always want my wholesalers that work with me, my investors, whenever they get a contract at first, to go ahead and send it over. I try to take a look and pick out any pitfalls and any things that I see, right off the get go. But I think my number one piece of advice is, you have to get out there and do it. I spent so much time when I first started getting up and getting wholesaling on, they call it the paralysis of analysis, or
Yes, get
yeah.
ready to get ready.
Yeah, I don't know if it was. I don't know if I did that one right.
No, no, but that's it. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I spent probably 4 months, 5 months before I put out my first offer, just overthinking what was I going to do and coming up with the percentages and everything like that. And it gets to the point, later on where now you pull up Zillow and you see the little dots of the sold properties, and you can just tell between clicking a few pictures on a decent range of what that property's worth. So I think once you get to that comfortability level, the business just becomes a lot easier. You see it a lot better, but you have to take that first step.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's one of the things that I talk about is even when you get scared, take that next step. It's a little bit easier for me because I've done the scary stuff, like have to call you and not know
Yeah, but
where to put the escrow amount or stuff like that, right? So I could talk about this embarrassing stuff because it's part of the growth.
But you know what? Everyone gets started like that, and
Mhm.
I'm happy to see people reach out to me. They ask for help. Is there any stuff that you can do? And I try to help as much as possible. I was there at a time. I actually started wholesaling while I worked for the previous title company. So I kind of had an inside track that a lot of people don't get. So I understand the difficulties and kind of how I can help new people.
No, for sure. So we covered a lot of ground when it came to title work. So, is there anything that you think I should have asked that I didn't ask when it came to title, or pointers that you want to definitely shine some light on to give clarity?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, I mean, we covered everything with title, and title is super generic. I like to tell people, I don't consider myself a title person. I'm an entrepreneur. It just happened to be title is the business that was kind of associated around me that I did the best in. I think that everyone is out there saying, oh, we can help you with your deal. Oh, everyone is, there's a million title companies out there. But until you get somebody that has done the business from where you want, nobody's going to be able to piece together a deal or be able to tell you when, your A to B seller is ripe for a reduction or stuff like that. Things happen in the transaction that, kind of just pass a lot of people by, and they're opportunities if you have somebody on your team that understands when an opportunity presents itself. So I think that's the biggest kind of selling point about me is, you could look at me as kind of a mentor on your flips as you go. I mean, I've been flipping houses for, coming up on 20 years now. So I think the biggest thing about me is just being able to kind of oversee your deal and help you along the way on what you should be doing to maximize them.
No, I could attest to this. Definitely investor friendly. Definitely will give you the best advice when it comes to the direction you need to head to have a successful close. Hands down, always been super helpful. It was like last month or 2 months ago, reached out to you. I said, hey, listen, I'm having this happy hour event. Would you like to sponsor? Didn't even blink. Say yes, not a problem, Sam. Just tell me what it is, tell me the date, and I got you. That's the type of person that you are, and that's kind of what's always been I've been grateful for and always been helpful too. So when it comes to any real estate investor, especially in South Florida, I will definitely point you in this direction because I know that you'll be well taken care of for sure.
I really
So,
appreciate that, my friend. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do, just help people do more deals. I think if people do more deals around you, pretty soon you're going to be doing more deals also. So, that's been my motto ever since I got in the business.
yeah, for sure. So I know that you recently started doing some new development. I hadn't really fully talked to you about it. So just kind of tell me, what you got going on with new development.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been super excited. I was flipping houses and wholesaling for a long time. I did the renovation thing, and I kind of found myself just not being great on the construction side. I was wonderful, sitting behind the computer, finding the house. I have the gift of gab, so talking with the agents, negotiating the deal was great. But showing up at 7:30 with the contractors in the morning and doing all
Walking
that
through the
stuff.
scope of
Oh,
work. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a completely different
It's
business,
not
completely
not
opposite
easy.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Uh-huh.
I was losing money on the timeline. I was losing money on, they were buying materials on my tab for other jobs that they had, and wasn't even spotting it and stuff like that. And it got to a point was, you know, I can do better with my time than this on the
Correct.
money that I was putting into it. So, I have a property that I was interested in building, and I got reconnected with a gentleman he was a little bit older than me in high school,
Mhm.
but he's a custom home builder, spec home builder. His family has been spec home builders, and I kind of got put under the wing, and we started doing this the current deal that I have together. And I was presented a great waterfront property over in Rio Vista in the Fort Lauderdale neighborhood, and it's one of his main areas. I brought it to him. So he was able to work with me where he puts up all the cash, and I basically just brought the deal. So
Mhm.
we now have a couple different deals going, but I feel like I found my construction partner, my design
Correct.
partner that
Mhm.
he's able to go ahead and make the deal kind of come to life. And I'm doing much better on locating the property or raising the money for deals and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's more my speed. So currently we have um, I have one development myself. We currently have a development together, and then we have a 7 home project that we have a few investors in. So they're all basically ready to break ground. So it's going to be an exciting year.
No, I'm excited for you, and I can't wait to check them out. And one of the struggles that you describe in house flipping is something that happens often. And be honest with you. So,
Everybody
you,
goes through it. If you're not a construction person, make
mhm.
sure you have your construction person handy because you are going to go through it also.
Yeah, for me, on my first actual flip, it was I hired a contractor, I fired a contractor, I hired
Mhm.
a second contractor, I fired a second contractor, I hired a third contractor. luckily there was enough in the deal. It
You
was
decided to
profitable
become a
still.
contractor.
Yeah. You said what? And that is how I became a contractor. Is because I was just like, I said to my wife, I was like, baby, this business has contractor problems, right? So I got to run the projects myself, and then I got really good and really fast at getting through projects. And then I was kind of like, this might make sense for me to become a contractor, but I realized becoming a contractor is not that fun. So I'm no longer want to
A
become a contractor.
contractor.
I'm back to investing. But
Yeah.
now I have all the tools. I have all of the processes. I know exactly what all of the steps are. You cannot give me any fluff. Like when you come to the table, you need to be prepared. But now I have a team, right? So a team of people that I've been working with for a long time, that there is no fluff. I don't have,
You're not negotiating
contractor
everything
problems.
on a deal by deal basis.
Exactly. I
Understood.
know what I'm going to get. I know they're going to show up when they say they're going to show up. But those are relationships that I built over time,
Mhm.
and translates well into working with additional investors to get through deals a lot faster, right? I have my my niche there. So but this is a common issue, and it will trip people up, and then it'll make them not come back to real estate investing until
Right.
right. So just wanted to say, oh, now one of the questions that we ask always at the end of these podcasts is, what is your best lessons learned from life and in business?
Oh man, lessons learned, life and business. I mean, they all got to be money things. Like the mistakes just put you behind the eight ball. It's like if you can build and build and do the right thing, and if you make one wrong turn where you get ahead of yourself or stuff like that, it ends up costing you. So I think my biggest thing is, I don't take the shortcuts. Make sure you're putting in the work, you're doing the research. You're not skimping on the important stuff of a deal. You're talking about how little title insurance costs versus possibly losing a property, and things like that. You're talking about buying the cracked vanity because it's $200
$200
cheaper.
less.
What are you talking about? Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
Yeah.
worth it. Yeah.
So I think business and life, I think it all comes back to you have to put in the work to be successful. You need to do the little things to make the big things go right. And I've owned a business now up on 11 years. Title now has been around. So it's just adding the little piece to the puzzle and trying to make the machine a little bit smoother and stuff like that.
No, for sure. So just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for blessing us with all of this much needed information when it comes to title work and areas where you could get tripped up and you need to avoid and stuff like that. So just wanted to say thank you. Always thank you for always being a big help to me in making sure that I'm not tripping up and falling, right? And everybody else, I definitely will be sending students over there to come see you when the time is right.
No, I appreciate it. It's been fun. This is my first podcast. So, let's make it happen again. And I got a whole lot more to say.
No, for sure, for sure, for sure. So thank you for joining us on the Pro Design Builder. It's not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design.
Appreciate you, Sam.